A brief message from your friendly neighborhood editing Jordan. This is your content warning. We try to keep things PG-13 around here. However, certain among us have a proclivity towards foul language and foul humor, so viewer discretion is advised. This is your only warning. While we're at it, I should probably note that any opinions stated about a certain tabletop role-playing game are just that, our opinions. We have been longtime fans and players of the game, and so we have a vested interest in how game mechanics work, and as a hobby in our group, we enjoy yelling at each other over rules interpretations. So everything that we say is all in good fun. With that in mind, however, I will still ask, Wizards, please hire us. Well, with that out of the way, enjoy the show.
It's time.
Dun dun dun.
I wouldn't really say it like that way because that implies that like we planned this out. And,
No,
like,
it's
this
been
was
months in the making, Levi.
This was the preset time. We didn't know what to do for this episode, so we just decided to do this.
It's time to bring back an old idea I had from years ago. I can't remember.
It was a while ago now.
It was fresh after January, so yeah. I guess if I'm remembering
Wow,
really
that's really
poorly, it
not
was like
actually-
5 months ago.
Yeah, that's really not that
But
long ago
I'm
compared
pretty
to what
sure
you
it
said.
wasn't this January. I think it was a
after
different
a
January.
January.
Yes.
After a January? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, then that would be over a year ago.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Do you want to explain what the
Yeah.
thing we're doing is?
Hey everybody, welcome to the Nat One Podcast, aka Nope, because nope, you're not gonna want to hear what we're about to have to say. I'm Pertuset.
I'm Levi.
And I'm Jordan.
We're doing show and tell, as I call it. We might be able to come up with a cooler name later, but that's what it is for now.
Woohoo!
So, the idea is, instead of before where we kind of have like a cohesive topic we all talk about and give our thoughts on, now it's just each of us present one niche thing that we want to talk about, while the rest of us ask questions and comments about said topic until we switch over to the next person, and it repeats until we've all gone through something we want to talk about.
So with that being said, this was your idea, so you have to go first.
Okay, I'll do it.
Twist my arm, why don't you?
There's a handful of different things that I could talk about, but I suppose I'll talk about the one thing I really want to talk about because I've been watching it like crazy, right? So, you guys already know because we talked about it a little bit last night. Audience, as you may know, we generally record these in close proximity to when we do our D&D sessions, and that's when we have our socialized moments. You know what it's like. I recently watched the entirety of Epic the Musical and enjoyed it a lot. I believe we've talked about before on this podcast if you've been around. If not, welcome. A lot of us are, or all three of us in particular, were stage kids in high school.
Yep.
Theater kids.
I still am one.
Yeah, we were also choir people because like the stage stuff we did weren't plays. Ew. We were musical people.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like plays.
Your little sound
Straight
effects.
plays are fun.
I'm just laughing at Pertuset's onomatopoeia that he's giving to his statements.
Yeah, yeah. Now, it's one thing to like musicals, and you know, there's a good chunk of them that I've liked that I'm like, oh, those are so cool. Like, you know, Phantom, Waitress, Les Mis, King and I. There's some good ones out there, but never before has there been one that has mixed another niche interest of mine. Now, I do love Waitressing, but that wasn't, you know, I didn't quite get the same vibe from that one. It wasn't really about being a waitress, you know what I mean?
It's not?
So, Epic I really liked a lot because it combined another one of my niche interests, and that's Greek mythology, or in so much as just like Greek culture, ancient Greek culture stuff. Because if you don't know already, Epic the Musical is a complete retelling of the Odyssey in musical form. I don't want to give a whole lot of info about its conception and everything. It's interesting because it doesn't have a stage adaptation if you don't know. So it can only be found like on YouTube, probably also Spotify if I had to guess. but it's just the music. Now, a lot of creators, a lot of like fans of the show have made little animatics for each song, and one person even put it all together in one big movie, which that's what I watched. I found out about this past week, like 4 or 5 days ago. I've now watched it 8 times.
It's
It's
doubled.
yes, it's been awesome. I've been loving it. Um, it's the music is really good. The animatics are captivating enough, and they're also very talented as well. I would like to see what a stage play would be like, but I'm pretty sure it would be nigh to impossible without just relying on a like projector back screen kind of thing to
Ship it
do all
over
the
to
effects.
Japan. They'll do something good with it.
That's darn right. No,
They know how to do stage plays over there.
that's
Mhm.
true. Their culture of stage plays is a bit different than ours, that's for sure.
I feel like you could do a lot of really cool stuff with like projection mapping and puppets.
That's what I was thinking. There's just some stuff I just don't know. But
That, for some reason, that just made me think of the puppet video game we saw at Summer Game Fest.
There was a puppet video game.
yeah,
Yes.
it was weird.
I want to play the puppet game.
Well, it's not out yet. It's
Yeah,
I
not,
it's
like
not out
puppets.
yet.
but it's good. It's coming out.
Yeah. I
Because you're gonna have to tell me what the puppet game is so I can go look for
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, that was strange. Um, but in any case, trying to think aside what else I want to mention about Epic the Musical. There's some really good music. Like I said, it retells the Odyssey. It takes a few creative liberties, but it does so in such a way that it maintains the core of the story, changes a few events, gets rid of some chaff, and highlights the character interactions and the inner struggle of Odysseus himself mostly. This one is a very character driven one, which I guess makes sense given that it's, the Odyssey. Um, but it's very nice. And the one thing that I kept telling someone else that I watched it with is the creator's use of leitmotifs is insane. It's crazy. It makes me so happy. There's a song at the very beginning, for those of you that may or may not know your Odyssey, called Just a Man, in which Odysseus has to kill a baby because Zeus gives him an omen saying this baby is the son of Hector of Troy, and he's gonna grow up and he's gonna swear vengeance on you, and he's gonna get you no matter what. I'm telling you this for a fact. And Odysseus pleads and like bargains with him. He's like, no, I don't want to do it. It's really funny too, because right before that song plays, Zeus is like, you're about to face an opponent I don't think you can beat. You're not ready for him. And Odysseus is like, nah, I can take him. And then he goes through and he's like, it's a baby. Um,
Um,
but the song Just a Man is him like choosing to throw the baby off of the top of the wall of Troy because he's like, I have to do it to protect my wife and to protect my son and to make it back home. I have to do it. It's a song about like there's only so much a man can be expected to do. That song, that the theme of the chorus of it is repeated several times throughout the show and takes on a new meaning almost every time. Later
love
on,
that.
it's beautiful. Whenever Odysseus is met with Circe, if you remember her from the story, she turns some of his men into pigs. Um, he is immune to her charms through some intervention of Hermes, or immune to her spells, rather. And so she tries to seduce him. And at least in the animatics depiction of it, whenever they're like this close to him falling for it, he starts singing "Just a Man" again, and it's like, oh gosh, he's gonna do it because he's like, I'm just a man. How could I not fall for this?
Mhm.
But then, and this is another great part I didn't mention before, every time he ever says his wife's name, Penelope, it has the exact same intonation. I can't do it right now
I've
because it's
seen
early in the
clips of
morning.
that. I haven't listened to the whole thing, but I have seen it's
Mhm.
Penelope is I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
yeah.
Um, and so after he sings Just a Man, the instruments of the song do the Penelope theme. And then Odysseus Tacit goes, I can't. And like gets up and is like, I'm not gonna do anything with Circe. And it's like, that's
Love
awesome.
it.
He was
I
about to
love it.
cave, but then like subconsciously he thought of Penelope as indicated by the music, by the instruments. You
That's so
know?
cool. I love it.
It's very cool. And those are the only two I can think of right now, but it's like that for the whole dang show. There's a bunch of reference music, like leitmotifs that come back over and over and over again, and it's awesome. Another great one I'll point out, and this will probably be like my final one for that point. The first time, the first time they encounter a monster proper is the Cyclops Polyphemus. And when they first meet him, the song seems or the song sings his name, Polyphemus, but it's like broken up. I can't remember exactly how it is. It's like Polyphemus, something like that. Um, and then way later, so that at a point, there's a song called Monstrous where Odysseus starts to be like, I'm gonna be the monster if I have to get myself and my men home. And then way later on, there's another song about that, about the men being like, we are the men made monsters. And then way at the end, if you know your Odyssey, Odysseus ends up killing a bunch of men in Ithaca because they planned to kill his son and attack his wife, to put it YouTube friendly. And so he kills a whole bunch of men in his home city of Ithaca. And while he's doing that, which is accompanied by sounds of like arrows flying and people being hit by arrows, the undertone of the chorus, a very deep tone, is Odysseus. It's
Oh, that's
Polyphemus
so
again.
cool.
It's a monster. It's the theme of a monster, but it's
I
his
love
name now.
that.
Isn't that awesome?
That's amazing.
It's so clever. It's a very clever use of the music, and I think part of it is because this whole musical has come out in sagas, as they call it.
Mhm.
It's got two acts, and it is in total, it's about 3 hours long, a little less than 3 hours long. It is sung through as well. There's almost no spoken word, or if it is, it's in the middle of a song. It's tacit.
Ladies
So,
like.
exactly. And I love sung throughs.
Me too.
Um, but, oh, what was I going to mention about all that? Oh, the sagas. So I think there's like 6 or 7 sagas to each act, pretty much. And each saga has like 5 songs. So like the very first one is the Troy saga. Then after that, it's the Cyclops saga. And it goes on like that. And then the end is like the Ithaca saga, stuff like that. Or I think they call it the Vengeance saga. But yeah, so that's epic. That's what I
Yeah, it
have.
was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
This is epic.
It is. It was. And the music is fire. The final thing I'll have to say about that, one reason I like the music a lot, and I talked about this with someone, I showed a bunch of stuff. Because also, upon watching all this, I decided to rewatch Hamilton. Because I thought that
Mhm.
it did, if I remember correctly, I thought it did a really good job with leitmotifs too.
Yep.
Um, so I watched it and I was like, it does, but honestly, I think I like Epic more because no offense to Hamilton, Hamilton is a great show. A lot of its music sounds similar, and I think that's good in some ways because a show has like a homogenous sense of like, oh, that song's from Hamilton when you hear it.
Mhm.
But
Hmm.
in another way, I got bored of the music. I was like, oh, this just sounds kind of like another song not too long ago, and it's not a leitmotif. It just uses similar instrumentation, similar singing. It's another thing in the same genre of music. Epic doesn't do a lot of that. Almost all of Epic's songs, like there's a few that are kind of the same. Like all Odysseus's songs generally are kind of similar, but a lot of the different ones sound like they're completely different genres. Like anything sung
Hmm.
by Poseidon sounds like some sort of crazy like electric rock, whereas the Odysseus songs almost usually sound like some sort of I don't even know like a tragic like an epic pop song. It's crazy. So that's why I like it. There's much more breadth of genre of music between the instruments and the singing. Don't get me started on the monster songs too. The monster songs are awesome because they sound like dark rock. It's awesome.
That's sick.
Mm,
Now I'm gonna have to go find the animatic. I know for a fact that I've had it saved forever and just haven't sat down and watched it, and now I really want to.
yeah.
I'm just
Questions.
saying,
Hmm.
Odysseus should have stabbed the baby.
Well,
He didn't
yeah.
stab it, but he threw it off of a wall.
But it was Hector, wasn't it?
It was the child of Hector.
Oh,
Yeah.
the child of Hector. Okay.
Yeah.
Should have stabbed the baby. Stabbing equals much more definite.
You know that something
You,
is
you,
done.
you have to look the baby in the eyes when you kill it.
That's
But
true.
he
Hey,
can't, he's just a man.
he was just a man.
That's Fizamda could do it because she wasn't a man.
Yes, dude. It's like Wonder Woman. No man's
I am no
land.
man. Baby
Yeah.
Slayer.
Oh no. But yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, Greek myth is something that I think is gonna stick with at least until something happens that like civilization resets itself and we forget about the ancient world. I think Greek myth is gonna those stories are going to stick with us throughout all time, and every once in a while they're gonna be rehashed.
It's true.
But particularly the way this one was done, it was almost like it was what I find interesting about it is it's almost like it was crowdsourced because it's entirely done by like a community of people rather than
Yeah.
someone being like, I'm gonna do the Odyssey again. But as a musical, it was some college grad students who did the music, but they didn't do the visuals. They didn't do any
Yeah.
like actual play or musical or anything. And then just individually people who were like, I like these songs, they're cool. And it's a cool way of telling the story of the Odyssey again. I'm going to make a little animation for it or an animatic for it. And then we slap all those together and we get one big picture. So I think what's interesting about the whole thing is that it's like almost like a perfect storm of people being like, I think this thing's neat and coming together to make it into one whole story
It's true.
collectively.
And I feel like I remember when they were putting out the casting calls for like auditions for the music. Because that was a thing on TikTok, because a lot of those songs go around on TikTok from time to time. I know that Penelope's ballad towards the end has been a really popular sound lately because people were trying to figure out how to string the bow from the Odyssey, and then there were a bunch of archers that got on TikTok and were like, "This is how you string that bow," just if you
Yeah.
ever needed to know that information. And also that song is really sad because I don't know what they do in the animatic, but I know that there are different interpretations of the Odyssey where she stands behind the gauntlet in certain interpretations, and I don't know which one was used in this, but people like analyzing that whole narrative point and stuff like that. I also remember when they were auditioning, I think it's Poseidon, it's the Get in the Water.
That's Poseidon.
Yeah, I
That's my
remember when
homeboy.
auditions for that were going around because that song slaps.
Yes, it does.
Get in the bag, Nebby.
Oh. Yes.
Get in the water, Odysseus.
Yes. Get in the water.
Yep.
I think there was another thing I was going to bring up about all that. But, another person I was watching it with did bring up the point that most likely the Odyssey, whenever it was first made, probably wasn't in written form, or at the very least, the way it was is it was probably told, it was played, acted, like by stagehands in ancient Greece. And he was talking about it's very interesting that it seems to have come full circle.
Yeah.
Because now it's back to being a stage form.
That's cool.
Yep.
Sung, albeit, but as far as we know, the old one could have been sung too somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You mean the events of the Odyssey didn't exactly transpire, and that's why we have the story?
Maybe.
Immersion broken.
They did find a giant horse.
Yep.
I mean, for the longest time, historians didn't think the Trojan War actually happened.
Yeah.
And then we discovered Troy, and we were like, oh.
Oh, wait. There's
no.
that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, who knows, right?
I mean, you know how Greek myth is. They almost always take something that kind of actually happened and then be like, and this is why. It's because of the gods and cyclopses.
It's one of those moments where it's like, oh, everything makes a lot more sense if you just look at it from the perspective of like, why would some Greek guy be like, let me record this giant event of every Greek kingdom coming together to go to war across the sea if it didn't actually happen?
Yeah, just for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
Our entire civilization decided to kill this one city. But that wasn't real. That didn't actually happen. It was all fake and made up.
No, it's just his introduction into speculative fiction.
It does make you wonder what the true cause of the Trojan War was.
Helen.
Do you think it actually
I
was in
don't
real
think it
life?
was.
To
I don't
get
think it
that many
was.
people?
Well, okay, World War One started with shooting one dude. So
True.
is it really that
I was
out of the
about to say
question?
No, I just wonder.
I could see it depending on, I mean, it really depends on a couple different factors. If the real life Agamemnon was like a psychopath, then yeah, I think it could have definitely happened if like his betrothed wife ran away and then he found out that like she ended up in Troy, and even if she really was kidnapped or not, he could have just been like, I hate them, I'm gonna
Yep.
kill them.
They're gone.
But isn't it so funny that somehow, if that is the case, he got literally everybody else in his
Yeah.
country to be like, "I'm with you, man. I'm
Yep.
sending all these troops and these
Yep.
ships. Let's do it."
Again, it's one of those things where it's like he could have had favors with people. He could have just been
Mhm.
powerful enough that people were like, I should probably listen to
Like I
Agamemnon.
can't stand against him, so I
Um,
guess we're going with him.
and there could have just been people who also hated Troy, who were
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm going with you. Let's get him.
Oh, I
So,
hope one day people got me the way Agamemnon or people had Agamemnon. Send me a ship of 600 of your strongest soldiers whenever I'm having a bad day.
who kills Achilles again? Is it,
I can't remember. I think
his
it's
name starts
Hector's
with a P?
brother.
Paris? Is it Paris?
Think so. I can't remember.
Who
Sorry.
kills? Yeah,
The guy
spoilers.
the guy didn't make an
Yeah,
Iliad
Paris.
musical yet. Okay.
Paris, the Trojan prince, kills Achilles. Because I was thinking about that. I was wondering like, what would the, I guess the real life equivalent of Achilles probably was just a guy who was really good at fighting,
Mhm.
and then some guy just got, well, supposedly Paris, but it probably actually was just some guy got a lucky shot on him and
My guess-
got
Well, I
his
feel like
Achilles
also
tendon, and that
where,
killed him.
yeah, if you, I don't know that he necessarily would have died from a wound to the Achilles tendon, but that's gonna put you on the ground.
Well, no, if you
That's
snap your Achilles tendon, like that can kill you.
that I didn't know. I know that it would like severely incapacitate you.
Yeah, I think it just depends on the way it's done, but I'm pretty sure it can like profusely bleed and like kill you from
Ooh.
bleeding out.
So then, yeah, the entire thing tracks. It wasn't necessarily that he was immortal. Somebody just got a really good shot.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's the thickest and strongest tendon in your body, so if it snaps, that's really bad.
Mm-hmm.
They explain Achilles' immortality through his mother dipping him in sticks,
Yeah, they
except
dip
for
him-
the and
dip
except
him
for
in the-
the
That's where, yeah, she held
Because
him.
she had to
And then-
hold him. She had to hold him from
Yep.
the heel.
So
She couldn't have just popped him in like the fryer basket and shook him around for a little bit.
they didn't make those yet.
She
They only
would've
had
lost
fryers,
him.
no
She would have
baskets.
lost him in the river Styx, and she couldn't go back later. Also, when he was like old enough to swim, to be like, "Hey, dip your foot in there."
Yeah. Just rub it around in there. But it does make you wonder how they determine that. Hard to say. Should have been there, I
Every
guess.
legend, there is a bit of history.
Exactly.
My theory has always been he was just such a good warrior. People had to make up they're like, okay, there's no logical reason why we can't beat this guy. Obviously, there was some kind of intervention.
Exactly. No, yeah, that's exactly what I think. Is he probably was just so good at fighting that people were like, "Well, clearly he's like divinely
has help."
blessed."
Yeah.
Yeah, clearly he can't just be beating us because no one's like that good, right? And then when someone managed to get a lucky shot off on him, then they were also like, okay, now clearly he had help
No.
too.
Here's my pocket pick explanation, because Achilles is the only one that receives an explanation for how he got his specific whatever he has. All the other heroes in that, like Agamemnon and such, that were also supposed to be of godly descent, we don't know what their strength is other than they're powerful. My explanation, Achilles, he's an OC. I think Achilles is an OC.
You can't
had
do
main
this
character
to me.
syndrome?
You don't-
I think Achilles is an OC, and I think Homer was like,
is-
and Achilles was so
He's
cool
not
and
Homer's
He was
awesome.
so good.
I think he was. I think he was.
No, no,
He also was
no.
not a king. He was not one of the people that came and brought a bunch of soldiers. He was just a
True,
soldier.
He was just there.
The rest of them were real life kings or rulers of their place.
That's
like
his
Odysseus.
self-insert history, Sona.
Mhm.
Oh, you can't do my boy Homer like this. You can't.
Well, we actually also don't know who wrote most of his works. I don't know if you've heard
Yeah,
of that
true.
one. The
Yeah,
Homeric
Yeah, I've heard
question.
that.
it's the same thing as Shakespeare. It's
Hmm.
was he actually
Shakespeare,
one
I
person
think,
or was
did
he
write
several
his
people?
shit.
I am also inclined to agree. As an actual historian on the point of Shakespeare, I do think Shakespeare was one person.
The
Yeah.
language in his works is too consistent for it to be multiple people.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But Homer's so far back that like, man, I don't
Yeah,
even
that
know.
could be
I'm not even
anyone.
gonna
Yeah.
try. I'm not.
So I'm just saying we could have slipped a little OC in there.
Yeah. And then it's like he gaslit the population of, and like
Achilles is
nobody
actually
wants to
the
admit that
only
they don't know
real
who Achilles
character in the
is.
Iliad, and everyone else is made up.
There you go.
No.
Big
Even
brain.
the horse?
Even the horse. It was all in
No.
Achilles' mind. Achilles was a schizophrenic guy who told Homer this story. And Homer was like, "That's awesome, man. I'm gonna write all
True.
this down."
All right, well, unless we want to drag on forever, someone's got to take their next topic.
I'm
Do you
not gonna
have?
lie to you, I've forgotten what mine was in
I do have
talking
one, but
about Epic.
I'll continue talking about that's I was
Oh,
gonna
I
do
remembered.
musicals, but
I
then we
remember what
started
mine
talking
is.
about musicals,
But
and I feel like I should say my musicals thing for a different episode.
no, I remember what
Mm,
mine is, and it's very different, so you can go ahead, Jordan. You can.
Okay. Mine is also very different. I wanted to talk about different TTRPGs that are not D&D.
mm,
Because that's the thing that I've been into because I really want to play a lot of different games. And also there have been a lot of cool, interesting new games on the market lately.
mm.
The biggest
Simply
one,
simply because of the fact that we've played a Greek mythology campaign, it's more related to what we're talking about than mine is.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
Mm.
There's the homebrew tangent there. There's an argument to be made. Do we really play D&D anymore? Or are we just using D&D Beyond for character sheets?
Mm.
True. Well, I mean, that is a big appeal of D&D that I think a lot of people do use. It's just something that you don't really, like I don't know how much people really talk about it, but homebrew is a thing that's been in D&D forever. It's not necessarily like if you're using too much, you can't use too much homebrew, I think. And we do still follow the guidelines of basic D&D rules. So,
Mm.
I don't think we're too off course for D&D players. I don't think we're playing a whole different game necessarily.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet, yeah. Someone's got to get
Um,
in on that online market, but no one
True.
else is.
Well, I mean, Critical Role's working on it.
Good.
Yeah, but they're not there yet.
I
That's what I'm
know.
saying. They got to get
But
there.
with the release of like Daggerheart and stuff, they put a lot of their stuff online digitally,
Yeah.
and it looks cool. That was kind of the well, I've been looking at alternate TTRPGs for a while, but the most recent big one was Critical Role releasing Daggerheart as its
Yep.
own like entirely unique system,
And
which is
people
very
seem to
cool.
like it.
It's really interesting. I still need to sit down and read the entire player's handbook. My dad has been going through it because he wants to start a campaign here soon.
Mm.
And it's very interesting. People are moving away from just a strict D20 system, which I kind of like. This one is more based on D12s, which is really cool. And then they have the hope and fear mechanic,
Mm.
which also incentivizes and not even incentivizes or decentivizes players. It provides players for both, it provides benefits for both players and DMs at the table. And so, like, if you score really big, like with hope on a roll, then it's good things for your party, good things for the table. But if you score really big and you still succeed, but with fear, but then there are also consequences that the DM can then reap later. And it just seems like there's a lot more back and forth and collaborative play than just like the traditional players and DM. It also seems to be a lot more based on storytelling, and that's kind of the way that a lot of them are going, where it's a lot more based on the collaborative storytelling aspect of gaming, as opposed to like the war game roots of actual D&D. Because Daggerheart seems to be very collaborative focused and narrative focused, and like their combat runs a lot more fluidly and like not even fluidly, like more with a story than it is like the turn-based RPG that we're used to.
Mm.
And then you have some games that are moving to not even having combat systems at all. It's just entirely narrative, which I think is really cool. I've also been exploring into this game called Dread, which is another form of tabletop where there are no dice. It's played with a Jenga tower. And you're asked to complete actions, and a success is you successfully pulling a block from the Jenga tower and setting it up on top. And it's meant for like shorter campaigns because as you go
That's crazy.
through, when you knock the tower over, your character just dies.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, if you knock the tower, your character is dead. And there are a couple other mechanics where like if you start pulling a block and you realize this isn't gonna go well, you'll fail that action, but you'll still live. Or if it's gotten so dire to the point where you're like, this is impossible, nothing is gonna work in this situation, you can elect to knock over the tower and your character dies in like a blaze of glory. And so your action succeeds, but then your character dies. And actually, Daggerheart has a similar mechanic to that because they don't have death saving throws in Daggerheart. They have different death actions that you can take, where one is like a blaze of glory guaranteed critical hit on something, and like you get to. You will definitely die and you will not be brought back, but you will take somebody down with you. And then they also have one where it's like you come back, but you come back with scars, and that can include like permanently missing hit points or armor weaknesses and stuff like that. And then there was another one. I don't remember what the third one is because there are three death moves that they've included in Daggerheart. Because their long rest system is different as well, where you don't just automatically heal like you do in D&D, where you sleep for 8 hours and everything's fine. You have to choose if you're going to heal HP, fix your armor, tend to your weapons, all of that kind of stuff. And then you also have the various editions of like Kids on Brooms, Kids on Bikes that have been moving towards more narrative play. And they have a token system that has also been worked on by Dimension 20, where they've been playing Never Stop Blowing Up and Never Stop Making Magic, where you can get tokens for certain things, just kind of like inspiration. And then once you save up those tokens, you can use them to change your roles. And so then you can turn a failure into success, but it's a finite resource. So if you run out of tokens, you can gain more, but like if you don't have enough tokens to like not make the roll, then you're just out of those tokens if you like didn't hit the DC.
Yeah.
so what
I've been
I'm
looking a lot into this stuff.
so what I'm hearing is, Pertuset, when are you going to run a Danganronpa campaign in Daggerheart?
Ooh.
In Daggerheart?
Because it has a hope and despair mechanic.
Uh, no. I think that would
Just flat
require
out.
me. I would have to get rid of every
And
other
as Jordan
mechanic
said,
in Daggerheart.
it's more narratively driven, so
It is.
clearly we can do it.
I'm pretty sure the best way to play Danganronpa is just to do like the Hunger Games simulator website.
There you go. The best TTRPG.
Mm. I do find it interesting. I was going to mention that it seems that we're seeing a fracturing, which this isn't unsurprising given that we're in the era of a new edition of D&D that's, for all intents and purposes, not the most popular.
Yeah.
I don't think that's something that we have to like say with a grain of salt. I think
People
it's
know our opinions.
well, also
Mm.
it's like known from the sales numbers of 2024 that it's not popular. It's not.
Yeah.
So
People don't care for it.
just like we saw with the birth of Pathfinder, we're seeing before it was like it's only D&D. So what if the new edition isn't very good?
Mhm.
We'll just keep playing it anyway. And then Pathfinder was like, no. And that was kind of like America, right? And now we're the French, right? Now we're the French, and
God.
now it's just happening everywhere. Now
Now we're the
everywhere's
French.
rebelling. Yeah,
Oh,
everywhere's rebelling. Everywhere's doing something new, and it's interesting because now we're hitting the point where we're like, we're what's that thing called again? The fence? Should you or should you not move the fence?
Oh, the goal was not the goalposts,
Moving the
but
goalpost. That's what I was thinking.
yeah, the Overton window?
No, it's not the Overton window, but it's something like that. It's somebody's fence. But point is, it's we're getting to the point where people that make TTRPGs are being like, well, why do we have these rules? Is there any reason we should have any of these rules? Let's just do away with them and change it. And some of the times they're going to have success, and some of the times they're absolutely not. Um, But the point is that they're trying it. And it's also interesting because this kind of mirrors the mid 2000s, late 2000s internet culture as well.
Hmm.
Because we're seeing a bunch of different people find things that they want to play because none of these things, it sounds like, are dying. None of them are coming out to one whole player, one concurrent player, and then being like, sorry guys, we're failing. We're going to close the system. Especially because of the nature of TTRPGs, they don't really close. You don't like, they're not live service. They don't,
Yeah.
servers don't shut down.
Oh, that would be
Um,
crazy. A live
it would
service
be.
TTRPG.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of, well, hard to debate. But
You
anyway,
guys gonna get the battle pass
yes.
this season?
Um, we're
Came out with the
seeing,
D30 in this one.
yes, you can get a skin. Um, we're seeing how like people will find these new games and play them, and that for some groups is going to be their forever game, or for some groups it's going to be their sometimes game, and some groups it's going to be the one-time game.
Yeah.
But point is that they're being played, and we're seeing a continued fracture of the TTRPG community into different TTRPGs, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but we're losing cohesion
Mm.
as a community of people playing one type of game, mostly because it's not really the TTRPG community that's really fracturing as much as it is the D&D community that's
Hmm.
fracturing.
Yep.
It's losing people, and as it's leaking, the boat's leaking, and yeah,
I
Rome
also
is
think
gone.
it's
hmm
true. I
true.
also think it's also with the release of 24, I think people are realizing some of the limitations of D&D because it is a highly customizable system and that's why it's stuck around for so long. However, I feel like a lot of these games, like you were saying, are a sometimes game or a one-time game. I feel like a lot of them are so niche and highly situational that it is a cool like one shot to play in between sessions of your home game.
hmm
Or like a lot of these games aren't long-term campaign games. Like we played Alice is Missing a while ago, and that
hmm
one is designed to be a capsule game that is a 90-minute TTRPG, and once that story is done after the 90 minutes, it is done. You're not
hmm
playing that game anymore. Those characters as you can replay it again, but those characters as you played them in those 90 minutes are never going to exist that way again. Um, and I think we're seeing that shift with a lot of these smaller print TTRPGs where it is supposed to be more niche and a little bit less overarching, where you're still trying to tell a story and it's very narrative focused, but I think it's more you are telling almost like campfire stories. It's not the Odyssey. You're
hmm
telling like individual shorter stories um through these TTRPG systems. And there are some of them that are meant for more long form playing because I know that like Monster of the Week and Kids on Brooms and Kids on Bikes all have mechanics that are can be episodic, but then can also be for a longer overarching campaign.
Yes.
But then I don't know how you would make a campaign out of Dread because like I don't feel like Jenga Tower is a reliable. I feel like that one is definitely more of a like episodic. You're only playing that game once, and once everybody the object of that one is everybody's gonna die.
hmm
There's also one that I've been looking into that I really want to get that's called 10 Candles that has a similar mechanic where you light 10 tea candles and the length of your story is going to be until those are all blown out. And the entire point of the story is your characters are going to die. It has a voicemail mechanic like Alice is Missing has, where everybody records some kind of message at the beginning and then you listen to it at the end. And it's more of that's a lot of these are also more horror tilted, which I think is very cool because I like horror. And we've talked about how it's kind of hard to establish horror or dread in D&D as it currently stands. So I think introducing these different mechanics into gaming is an interesting way of establishing that. I also think it's really cool, like going and knowing that your character is going to die, I think is a different ending point.
hmm
Because with 10 candles, it's like the Jenga tower. In order to accomplish actions or if bad things happen, that's when you blow out the candles, and the game ends when everybody's dead and all of the candles are out. And the last couple of minutes of the game are played in complete and total darkness because all of your candles are out. And so you're supposed to only play that like with the lights off and just the candles being the light. And so that like sense of foreboding and sense of dread and fear comes from the fact that your light source is slowly diminishing throughout the game until you're like, oh God, we only have one candle left and we're going to be in the dark and we only have one candle left, guys. What do we do?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is very cool. And I'm also really here for any method of gaming. I love dice. I'm a dice goblin. But I think it's really cool to figure out different ways to use the standard set of dice and also methods that don't use dice. So like diceless RPGs and also DM-less TTRPGs, I think are very interesting and a very interesting spin on the like game space as a whole.
It's what I said. It's the fence. We're moving and we're taking the fence away. We're getting rid of it, demolishing it.
That has a name.
It has a
And we're
name.
gonna realize it like tomorrow or like
fence is not
Tuesday,
its
and it's
name.
gonna drive us nuts.
But it's what it is. I mean,
Someone's
people are
gonna
like,
remember.
we don't need a DM. Get rid of that. We don't need dice. Get rid of that. And in some ways, sure, it works for what it is. In some ways, it doesn't. But it doesn't matter. The point is people are trying. Because unlike real life, moving the fence doesn't have dire consequences.
This is the Protestant Reformation of TTRPGs.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Well, I think some of the DM-less ones were like Alex was missing. We need to get together and play the expansion because I now have the expansion with the new characters. I still think the card deck mechanic and the timer mechanic is really cool with it being like somebody starts the game, but then past that, it runs itself through the cards and it just comes to its own conclusion on its own.
Yeah. No, like I said, none of it, like I said, it doesn't matter here to just mess around with all the different rules because there's no consequences. In some ways, you're going to hit a hidden gem, and sometimes it's going to be like, oh, this sounds so cool, I can't wait to try it, and you're going to try it and be like, well, that was kind of a mess.
Gem alert.
Gem alert. But yeah, that's the state of the TTRPGs that we're in, and it all exists on a spectrum, ultimately. Include D&D on there, it all exists on a spectrum.
Okay,
You're
include
losing...
what?
D&D.
Okay, you said it weird.
Sorry. I just woke up. If you include all of it on there, it all exists on a spectrum where you give and take and lose different stuff. Like Pathfinder is more rules heavy than D&D. It's less open for things for interpretation. It's less open for narrative things except for what you make.
Yeah.
D&D is a little bit more open for that. And now we're seeing a turning of the tide where everyone wants to go the exact opposite way. It's all narrative. There are no rules. It's just what you say. Like, what's that superhero one? I can't remember the name of it right now.
Oh gosh, I know what you're talking about. It's
The
the one where
superhero
like,
TTRPG.
yeah, it's the one where like everyone's in a city.
It's
it
like
takes place in a single city.
Masterminds
Yeah, I
and
know.
something.
I can't think of the name. I know which one you're talking about though.
Hero TTRPG. Marvel. There's a Marvel. Oh, there's a 90s Marvel TTRPG
What the heck?
apparently.
There's themed RPGs for everything.
Um,
We have a Firefly TTRPG in our basement. My dad wants the Fallout one.
I did know about
There's
the
one
Fallout one.
called Ascendant, Masks.
Oh, well, there's a bunch. But the one I had been thinking of, I remember you like designed all this stuff yourself anyway, so it's just about... there was another one I remember where you just kind of like describe what your character does. You don't even have to like roll for it. You just be like, this is what I do. We're
At
getting...
that point, you're just getting into like internet role play.
You are, and people don't mind it. People like it, and that's
yeah.
okay. It's just different strokes for different folks. And
Great power.
that's not
Super
copyright.
I do want to start playing some of these as like one shots, whether we film them or not, just because I'm very interested in seeing how all of these play. I'm seriously looking into getting
This one,
10
sorry.
candles.
This one really gives like early TTRPG super game.
Super game.
Super
Super game.
Oh, Thousand-Year-Old
it's from
Vampire. That was the
1980.
other one I needed to mention. Sorry, continue.
No, you're good. You're good. There's apparently a Dragon Ball Z TTRPG.
Yeah.
It's like
I'm
the
telling
card
you,
games.
there's one for everything. Like it's like how every property has a Monopoly game and a Clue game. There is probably a TTRPG for for whatever property you can name.
I know. I don't think I can find the one that you're talking about though, Pertuset.
I can't remember. We listened to it. We went to a con and we listened to someone talk about it
It's
a
not
long time
Legends,
ago.
is it?
No, it was a something and something.
Capes and Crooks?
No.
Uh, uh,
While you're looking for that, I will
I
also
got it.
mention Thousand Year Old Vampire is a one-person TTRPG, which is really cool. And you kind of go through the book, and there's a memory mechanic where you design your character, and then as time goes on, in order to progress the game, you have to lose certain memories. And so, like as you make your way through the game, by the end, your character will be completely different just because of the passage of time, which I think is really cool.
It
what
was
is it?
Mutants and Masterminds.
Mutants
Mutants
and
and Masterminds. Okay.
Masterminds.
Eminem. Oh, all right. Well, again, if we don't want to be here all day, it's about time we move on unless there's any other TTRPG comments.
I also want to play Old Gods of Appalachia, but that's the last one I'm going to mention.
Okay.
See, that's like I've always wanted to play Call of Cthulhu, but that one's not even part of this whole
I also
thing.
want to play Call of Cthulhu. That one's been around for a
Yeah,
while.
Call of Cthulhu has existed for a long time and isn't has not been a part of this whole let's break off of D&D
Hmm.
movement. It's just been its own thing.
It's
I
been doing
do
its own
have the
thing.
rules set. We should play that at some
Yeah.
point.
I've been I was initially years ago averse to it because it's not a D20 system, but after playing a non D20 system myself, which has also been several years ago now because I played Monster of the Week, I'm much less averse to it because it's actually not that bad. It's
Hmm.
um
Yeah.
but
And that's been a
anyways.
lot of them has been moving away from the non-D20 because also Candela Obscura is a D6 system, which is cool.
That's what Monster of the Week is. Monster of the Week's a D6 system.
Hmm.
I wonder why. I wonder why it was like D&D went to D20 and then everyone was like, "No. We
Well,
have
because
to do D20
they
now."
they didn't they didn't want to be D&D, so they were like, let's
Well,
not
no,
do
that no, no, no,
D20.
no. I'm saying like for the longest time it was
Why that
like
set the standard of
yeah,
D20.
yeah, D20 became the
Well,
standard of
think
TTRPG.
of it like it's Fortnite, okay?
I'd rather not.
When it came out, when D&D was in its stride, when it was popular, everybody was like, we got to do what they're doing because it's popular. Now that
Hmm.
everyone's rebelling against it, it's like, well, I can't be associated with that.
Okay. Okay.
That's
D4
fine.
system.
Literally, I guarantee you, I really, really, really doubt the creators of most of these games were like, I have an exact idea that requires that it cannot be the D20 and must be one of these dice. And I guarantee you, most of the time it was, well, I just want to do something different
Hmm.
than the
Hmm.
D20. I'll make up the rules to make that make sense.
I wonder. But I do wonder if that's I feel like that's definitely more prevalent now because of what you're saying. I do think that is in the cultural zeitgeist of like let's not be D&D, but I wonder about in earlier days if there genuinely was times when people were like, actually I think a D6 or a D12 system would be better for what I'm trying to do. Because obviously in earlier years there wasn't as much of a I'm not trying to be D&D. It was more of a I just want to make a TTRPG. So
Mm.
I don't know. I'm curious, but
Less proliferation of ideas back then
yeah,
too, because early
yeah,
internet.
yep. I'm write a letter to the creators of Call of Cthulhu. I don't know. I don't know if they're still around. I don't.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are.
Um,
Well, maybe not the original creators, but I'm
but
sure they left their
anyways,
brains in a vault.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the thing I wanted to talk about is completely different, and now for
Yeah.
something completely different. Which I don't know how like I don't know how in this you two are. Pertuset's a little bit because I know he's in the gamosphere, but I don't know how much Jordan's in it at all. But I wanted to talk about Helldivers 2.
Oh yeah.
And not like the video game itself and the gameplay of it, but the cultural phenomenon of Helldivers 2. Because I've been intrigued by this for like the past year and a half. Actually, has Helldivers 2 even been out for a year and a half? When did Helldivers
Almost
2 come out?
exactly a year and a
Okay,
half.
I was
Ooh.
about to say because like there's something weird about this game that's different from like almost every other it's technically live service, so every other live service game that's come before it, which is that it like it's created a I don't even know how you say it because it's fostered a community that could have existed because it's a sequel. So this community that exists with Helldivers technically like had the ability to exist for years before now, but only did when 2 exploded onto the scene and didn't really have that much hype to it before it came out. But then it came out and everyone was like, this game's awesome and amazing. I will die for Super Earth. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm part of that. I was there and have been there and am still there to this day, and I would die for Super Earth if given the opportunity. Um, but it's just interesting to me because not to make it too political, but there has been discourse about people being like, is this a problem? Is this a problem that like um people just have sworn such allegiance to this fictional entity
Did we
that
accidentally make a cult?
that is because for those of you who don't know, I don't know what the watch preferences of our podcast audience is, but in the Helldivers universe, it's all prefaced by there was a World War III event where the world almost ended, and then after World War III, a one world government is set up that is very authoritarian, and this one world government has decided to rename Earth to Super Earth, and they are extremely like they're comically human supremacist, very authoritarian, very propaganda-y, very humans are the best at everything they do. And Helldivers 1 was the first galactic war, and the events of that game eventually resulted in the player base winning. And now Helldivers 2 has come out, and this is the second one. It's been 100 years since Helldivers 1, and now weird stuff's happening again. The bugs, the factions in Helldivers 1 were the bugs, the cyborgs, and the Illuminate, which are respectively bugs from Starship Troopers, Terminators, and aliens, like stereotypical gray alien squid men. Um, and now like we've got stuff happening like in the early days of Helldivers, we had Malevelon Creek, which was space Vietnam, and the community just did that on their own. That wasn't something that
Oh.
like the devs did. The
That's not like
community
a plot point.
No, well now it is, but we'll get to that. The community came together and collectively decided there's this one planet called Malevelon Creek that there have been no objectives for, because that is a thing that happens in game, is the devs give the player base specific objectives to complete called major orders. There was no major order for Malevelon Creek. Everyone just collectively decided that this is gonna be the planet that we're gonna like hell dive onto and try to hold forever. And so it became like this weird community rite of passage thing that you fought on Malevelon Creek and had experience there. And then months later, the devs turned around and said, we are gonna release a cape because there's cosmetics for capes in the game that only Helldivers who fought on Malevelon Creek before it was liberated get to have.
Yeah.
So now there is legitimately a contingent of the player base who are Malevelon Creek veterans that can physically prove that they were the ones who fought on Malevelon Creek because they have that cape. And I am a member.
Oh my god.
But it's like so you have this weird relationship of like there there are legitimate contingents of like, here are the early war veterans, and now you have the later war veterans. But most recently, and I'd be shocked if anyone who doesn't do like regular gaming didn't hear about this, we had the battle for Super Earth. That happened. The Illuminate attacked Super Earth, and it was all over the internet. Because Super Earth was burning. They almost won. They didn't though. We stomped them. But like, I don't know. For me, it's just strange because you can see this in other games over time. There are games that have gotten really popular and people have really enjoyed them. But it's interesting to me because I don't think it's ever been to the extent that Helldivers has done it, because Helldivers 2 has had, what was it? I think Sony put out a thing where it was like it had 2.5 million total players at one point. were playing it, and the like largest concurrent players has ever been, I think, has been in like the mid 200,000s. Um, and also it's a PvE game, so there's no infighting. The community is like nearly entirely united towards a common cause, which is the the pushing of the directives of Super Earth at any given time. Which is strange because normally, like other big games where something like this would happen, I think of stuff like Fortnite. I
Hmm.
think of stuff like PlayerUnknown's Battleground, other big live service games over the years that have come out. Marvel Rivals is kind of a bigger one right now that's gotten really popular. Um, but the thing is, in all of those, you're always fighting other players. They're PvP based in some way, or they're a team based. Like Marvel Rivals is two teams fighting. Um, Obviously, Fortnite is battle royale. Either you're by yourself or you have a small team and you fight other players. This one, it's no fighting other players. It's all everyone is circularly united in a common goal, which has inspired like this strange patriotism in a community for an entity that doesn't really exist and is also like comically authoritarian and not good. But everyone loves them, and like if you bring up Helldivers to people who haven't played Helldivers, like I think it's very easy for people to be in on it because it's like there there's no hostility because you're human. And that's the group we're fighting for, is like you can literally not be a bad guy in the Helldivers universe because you're a human being in real life. So Super Earth's gonna love you. And
So they accidentally created a very large militia and also world peace.
I don't know if it's a
yeah.
militia.
Uh,
Sorry, the potential for a very large militia.
but also talking about this, I thought about this when I started talking about it, but I kind of wanted to maybe segue into like the gaming sphere as a whole with like everything that's going on with it. But yeah, no, just off of what I've initially given to you. Thoughts, comments?
I kind of want to play it
um,
now.
well,
See? See?
I'm gonna be honest. I mean,
Marketing worked. I kind of want to download it.
I never played the game because I didn't have money when it came out, and I still don't have money. Um, but it's really funny what you're describing is the idea of developers listening to the community of their
Yes.
game.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's really, really funny is out of context, that sounds like a basic requirement that
Yeah.
all games should have. But if you actually pay attention to anything, that doesn't happen ever.
The first
Um,
example I
That
thought of
was
was
my
World of
thing that I
Warcraft.
wanted to segue into
mm,
like the game sphere as a whole with, is part of the reason why Helldivers 2 I think has been so successful is the devs are like active all the time and talk to the community constantly and literally interact with us on a weekly basis because the major orders like come from people at Arrowhead. There was a
mm.
joke during early Helldivers 2 where supposedly, I don't know how true this is, but I think it is partially true. Supposedly there is a dev at Arrowhead whose name is just Joel, and he's the guy who's in charge of giving out major orders every week. And so the idea was like we collectively are fighting against Joel as like this one person is who every single Helldiver is fighting against because he gives us all of our things to go do. Which was funny initially when it happened, but like yeah, no, that another thing that has been promised to the Helldivers community and is probably going to come out eventually. There was a point where the game got review bombed a while ago because of some Sony shenanigans, because Sony is the producer of the game, so they region locked 130 countries from being able to purchase the game, and so the game got
Mm.
review bombed. Now the reviews have since recovered because it's been like 6 months since this happened, but Arrowhead, the devs, have said, yeah, we're gonna give you guys a review bomb cape, which is gonna be it's gonna be the like, you know how the Steam reviews, if you open it up, it has like the red bars that go down and the blue bars that go up. That's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be a bunch of red bars on the left side of the cape that are going down and a bunch of blue bars on the right side of the cape that are going up. Which that's just like a way of the devs being like, we're humble enough to be like, haha, this is funny. Here, have a little cosmetic for it, guys.
Again,
It
it takes so
humanizes them.
little. It takes
Yes.
so
Yeah.
little. That probably would take them 5 minutes of time to get that done. But it makes people so happy. Look at Levi. Look at how happy he
I'm
is.
very happy.
He
I like
loves it.
Helldivers 2 a lot. It's a fun game.
This is what happens whenever you open the window just a little bit for collaborative storytelling. Because the other thing I was going to mention is this is Warhammer, but nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Warhammer, but without dice.
Yeah, I mean, it's the exact same thing because you can do a bunch of different matches in Warhammer and say it's canon, and it is.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing as Helldivers.
And
You
the
fight, and it's
story-
canon.
Yep, the story in Helldivers is determined literally by how hard the player base fights to achieve their goals.
Exactly.
Because if
So-
you fail, you fail. It was leaked that if they like losing the Battle of Super Earth was a thing that could have happened. It wasn't a scripted event. They had voice bites like ready for because there's a whole thing. There's a newscaster in the game who always reports on like stuff that's going on in your little hub area. Her name's Coretta Kelly. We love her. And there were leaked voice lines of her being like, Super Earth has fallen, it's over, I'm killing myself.
True.
But that didn't happen. We won because the player base fought hard enough to win the Battle of Super Earth. But yeah, no, in the broader scheme of gaming in general, going back to the point Pertuset was talking about, it does in a wider view make one sad because this is like, oh yeah, this is pretty much like the bare minimum of what a dev team should be doing with their community, especially if it's a live service game where you should be like frequently interacting with your community constantly. The only other example I can kind of think of, but honestly not even really, is Fortnite. But Fortnite doesn't really like interact with their community. They kind of just say, here's what we're doing next, and throw it at the community.
Yeah.
And then the community is like, whoa, because it's some new IP that they've managed to get an
Miku
agreement
and
with.
Sabrina Carpenter are now in
like,
Fortnite.
It's not like they're like, okay, community, who do you want to see next in Fortnite? No, it's like them being Hatsune Miku, and now the most recent one was Bob's Burgers and Hank Hill because it was for it was for Father's Day. It was a nice, fun little gesture. But again, it's like they don't do community involvement. They just say, here's what we're giving. Here's the slop for this month, community. Eat it up.
Mm-hmm.
And they do
every time.
They do eat it up. I'm also guilty of that. I participated. I bought the Hatsune Miku skin. So I'm guilty of that as well for Fortnite, just as much as I'm guilty of the community action of Helldivers 2. So, but yeah, no. It's live service games are cash cows, and Arrowhead, the devs of Helldivers 2, I think have proven that they can be even more of a cash cow if you actually interact with your community, because also Arrowhead doesn't do like, they do battle passes, quote unquote, but they're entirely possible to get for free. Because the premium currency in the game is farmable. You can find it on the maps as you're playing the game and pick it up. You only get little bits at a time. You get about like 50 to 100 per time you find them, but each battle pass, quote unquote, costs 1,000. So if you get like 10 maps, you're playing for a while, you can get them for completely free. You don't have to spend premium currency to buy the war bonds. They're called war bonds. You don't have to spend a cent on the game to get all of the stuff that's locked behind premium currency if you're willing to put the time into it. But I think that being available to the player makes them more willing to be like, okay, I'm okay with maybe spending a little bit of money on this then, because it shows that the devs are like, they're not trying to force you into it, because once again, I am guilty of said thing, because I have been like, okay, the Arrowhead devs are pretty nice guys and they seem to be doing a pretty good job with this game. I'm okay with spending a little bit more money than what I did just purchasing it on it, because also it costs like $5 to buy one of the war bonds. So I've done that once or twice because I've been like, I don't really want to farm for a while for all this. So again, just interact with your community more. Be gracious as devs. That instills the idea in your community that you deserve more as developers, and they'll spend money on you. But I think, unfortunately, the larger gaming industry as a whole is going to learn the wrong lessons from Helldivers 2. I don't know what that's going to be. I just feel like they're not going to get it right.
Well, the problem is the business majors. I've been saying it my whole life. I'm gonna keep saying
Mhm.
it. It's the business majors.
Hmm.
You give these monkeys a calculator and you see what they do.
I could see like the lessons learned being like, do more like community driven storytelling, but then still having the problems of like, but also try to suck them dry for everything they have, instead of doing the Helldivers route of like, and also don't press like buy our next battle pass on them every single time a new one comes out. um
They're not gonna do that. They're not gonna do
yeah, no, I
community
don't know.
storytelling.
I
That
don't know.
requires
I don't know.
effort. That
That it's one of those things that like, what are they going to take from Helldivers as being the successful sticking point of Helldivers? What
I
are
don't think
they
they
going to
are.
think
I don't think
is
they
good?
are.
There's got to be something though, because Helldivers is very successful, and with what just happened with the Battle of Super Earth, it got a massive boost again of the player, but like the player base tripled again overnight because of that happening. And so there's got to be something. There's got to be
There's
some
not gonna be.
people
There's not gonna
who are
be.
looking at Helldivers and saying, what are they doing correctly that I could emulate? I just think that they're not going to take the correctly.
No, because I mean, think about it. If we think about the recent games. Okay, so games that are similar in the same way of having a boost of popularity post-release would be like Cyberpunk, No Man's Sky, although they had a botched release. Helldivers didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, no one's tried to mimic those games. I don't think anyone's gonna try to mimic Helldivers because I think they're like, we're in our own lane. We can't do that. Um, Anyone trying to mimic it already has, and it's called Kill the Justice League. That's mimicking Helldivers 2. That's what they tried, and it failed horribly for them. And if anyone's learned right, they've learned their lesson.
Fair,
Honestly, what
fair.
you're saying reminds me of the streaming wars that's going on right now, where everybody's mad at like Netflix and Hulu and everything for hiking their prices and adding ads on everything. And then Dropout increased their price by $1 for new subscribers. It wasn't even for current subscribers. And there were a bunch of people that were like, well, screw you. I want to pay you $8. Let me pay you more money, Sam Reich. And like current subscribers being like, hey, that's not fair. Why did we get grandfathered for the cheaper price? I would pay more money for Dropout. And like other companies were like baffled of like, when we do it we get yelled at, but when you do it they offer you more money. What the heck, man? And they just don't get it. They
Well, it
don't get
doesn't
the
matter.
difference.
They still make way more money. Any of those streaming
I know,
platforms make
I
way more
know,
money.
I know, but it reminds me of a similar thing where it's like, if you can treat your community with respect and put out good content and like are just good, then your community will rally behind you.
And you see the problem. The problem is the business majors, once again, because
Yep.
this business majors are proving that it doesn't matter if you have community loyalty or if you treat your fan base with respect, because you'll make more money if you don't.
Yep.
They prove it time and again.
Yeah.
Except in the gaming sphere, they're losing a little bit because of Kill the Justice League and Concord.
In the gaming
But
sphere, it does seem to be turning on its head a little bit right now. I think gamers are fed up with it, and I'll be intrigued to see what like the next 10 years of gaming are going to look like, because it does seem like we're having a little bit of a shift towards less live servicey stuff.
indeed, we have a new plague upon us, and
Yeah.
I'm not upset with it because I
Plague
like
Tale
it.
Requiem, you might say.
Yeah, no. Our newest plague is gotchas are popular. So now the
Yes.
West has discovered gotchas, and the West is
West
like,
has
we should
discovered-
make a gotcha.
Yep, the West has discovered the fascination of Eastern gaming for the past 10
Considering
years.
that like HoYoverse is probably one of the most profitable gaming companies in
Yep.
the world right now, because
Yes.
it has count them 4 or 5 free games, and it makes
Yep.
more money than Kill the Justice League did.
Yep.
So yeah, so now we're gonna suffer from that. If, by the way, hypothetically, some company did try to do the Helldivers strat, the lesson that they would learn poorly from it is that they would like make you pay for more story content. They would probably, if
True.
I had to guess, they would
Paid
probably
DLC.
crowdfund it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would even be that. I think they'd be like, "All right, guys, you need to raise $10,000, and we'll drop the next chapter."
Oh my god, yeah.
Once the community reaches
You're
10,000,
describing Star Citizen. That's already a thing. That's except it existed before Helldivers, so I don't know. But
also Wizard 101 did that too. But
true.
it's cyclical.
But yeah, that's my tangent for the show and tell episode. The
Okay.
gaming phenomenon that is Helldivers 2.
Well, there you go, everybody.
And now, next weekend, Jordan's gonna play Helldivers 2 on stream.
Maybe. I'm not even saying no. I might.
It is a third-person shooter, so that's up to your discretion.
So I'm gonna play it and I'm gonna puke on stream.
Yes, you can. Yes,
I don't know
you
if
are.
we said that before. That's the problem. There are a lot of games that I like conceptually. I can't play third-person shooters because they make me vomit.
You can make it first-person, if that helps at all.
It usually does. It's shooters and it's the rapid, like having to. When I watch Sharon play, not Overwatch, the other one. What am I? Destiny. Why did I think that was Overwatch? When I watch Sharon play Destiny, it makes me sick to my stomach. I can't watch shooters. Ultra Kill also makes me really sick.
If one's gonna do it to you, Ultra Kill's gonna do it to you. That's like fast-paced shooter the movie.
It makes me really sick.
Yep.
All right, so stay tuned for the Jordan puking stream, everybody.
Yeah. Stay tuned for Jordan Throws Up on Stream, the movie.
Good thing we don't do videos for stream.
That's it.
Yeah.
Why are you still here?
Stay tuned for the next one.
The podcast's
home.
over. Go watch Epic and play a TTRPG that's not D&D and then wash it down with some Helldivers 2.
Yeah, go show and then tell.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, that's good. I like that. We should do that at the end of these.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed the episode you just listened to. If you really like our content, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications on YouTube, and look for us on Spotify. If you'd like to see us continuing to do more fun projects in the future, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can find our page linked in the description above all of our other social media links. And finally, if you'd like to keep up with the zany shenanigans of our lives and check out some more skit-based content and things like that, check us out on Twitter and TikTok, links in the description. And hey, thanks!